talking about research methodology. Uh, it is a very wide topic, and today I will concentrate on discussing some particular areas related to review of reference literature, which is a major part of research. Or we can say that that is a that is the thing which makes the fundamental basic structure of a research work, and I will talk about that. I hope that all the participants will kindly cooperate with me, and they will share their feelings. If they have any questions after my presentation, they will able to discuss with me. And I hope that not only the participants, of course, I will also able to learn some new things from the discussions. Okay, may I request the technical expert to allow me to share the screen, please? I am not able to share the screen for presentation because it is disabled. Please make it enable. Yeah, I want to share the screen, please.
You will have to go to the shared screen option.
Yeah, it is disabled, I think. Host disabled, participant screen sharing. So you have to enable it. You'll have to enable it.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So this is what I am going to discuss. Review of reference literature, why and how. Why it is important, and how to conduct or how to pursue for review of reference literature. You know that review of reference literature, it is very important part of a research work. And before starting one research work, even before fixing the topic of research work, you will have to go through some reference literatures so that you can get an idea of the previous research works, and also you can so that you can have some ideas about the methods adopted, about the previous researches, what are the limitations, and several things. So today's our learning objectives, what is meant by literature review, functions of literature review, and steps of literature review. These three objectives will be fulfilled from today's presentation. And you know that research is not an it is not a search. It is not a kind of thing that searching something. You know, it is not that you are the only person. You are going to search something new. What was not even searched by anybody. In this earth, nothing actually remain unsearched. It is or it was not searched by anybody. It was nothing like that. But we will have to research it for discovering something new, because every research work has some limitations, and every researcher has some particular viewpoints, and we will have to overcome from that limitation, and we want to try to cross that limitation, and we want to argue with the viewpoints with the previous researchers, and we want to establish new things and new findings in the research areas. So you know that this is these are the basic steps of one research work. You'll have to fix the research problem. What are the problems of research? So formulation of research means you will have to fix one idea about the research. These are the objectives. What will be your objective? Means your aims and objectives are to be very much specific, and you should be very much conscious up to what point and from what direction you are going to achieve your objectives. So review of related research literature. This is the fourth step you will have to follow up. After that, the limitation of the research problem we can fix, we can schedule. It means review of, after only review of reference literature or related literature, we can, after going through that related literature, we can have an idea about the limitation of our own research problem, up to what limitation we can go, and up to what limitation we can discuss, and up to what limitation we can achieve. That is the limitation of the research problem. Formulation and testable hypothesis. Even the hypothesis, you know that hypothesis, this is a pre-assumption. This is an assumption previously it is made before concluding the research, that it is or it is not. This is like that. That is the hypothesis, and that hypothesis can be fixed only after going through the reference literature. Identification of research variable, what type of variables we'll have to adopt. This is this will also come out after reference literature discussions. And construction of research design, designing tools of data collection, designing plan of data analysis, collection of data, data processing, data analysis and interpretation, drawing conclusions and recommendations, and writing of research report and reporting of research findings. So this is, you see, what we have seen, that writing the research report, which we think as the research outcome, most of the researchers think that this is the basic thing, and we'll have to conclude it within very short frame of time. Okay, you conclude it in a very short frame of time, but to make this research report very unique and one of the significant research report, you'll have to go through the fourth step very seriously, that is review of reference literature. So what is literature review? It is the inclusive appraisal of the published and unpublished work. Please keep it in your mind. Review of reference literature does not mean only the published works. It is published and unpublished work of difference from different sources related to the topic of research. It means it is according to the topic of research, you will have to go through different published works, means published thesis, published dissertations, published research papers, published research-based articles, and some unpublished data, which is of unpublished information. This may be some information recorded in the government offices. This may be some information. This may be some some charts, atlas. These are recorded, but unpublished and recorded in a safe place, recorded in a place where we can believe that we can this particular unpublished work has research value. These type of unpublished works are also we can consider as literature, which are to be reviewed. It is the foundation of a research. So this is we say that the literature review, it is the basic foundation of a research work. Without a strong review of reference literature, you cannot make your standpoint clear. You cannot make your methodology perfect. You cannot adopt perfect methodology. You cannot fix the delimitation of your research. Even you cannot fix your hypothesis. So ultimately, you will have to either reject or accept your hypothesis at the end. So fixing one hypothesis or scheduling one hypothesis, it is very important for one researcher. So yeah, of course, the literature subjects, they say that we do not adopt hypothesis, or we cannot go through the hypothesis. It is said, but hypothesis, either you will have to write it or it is in your mind. You'll have to fix one hypothesis, one, two, or three hypotheses, which are closely related with the objectives. So it says that the hypothesis, the objectives, the limitations, all are fixed on the basis of the literatures which are reviewed. The literature review is an integral part of the entire research process and makes a valuable contribution to almost every operational step. Almost in every operational step, this literature review will be relevant to you, because you will have to argue the established viewpoints of the researchers, or either you will have to argue or you will have to accept or reject the established viewpoints of the researchers. So in each and every point, these reviews may be or these reviews are very much relevant in each and every step, because in each and every step you will find some findings or something which is to be argued, or which is to be accepted, which is to be rejected. So what it is, the Queensland University, it is through very acceptable definitions of literature reviews I'm quoting here. And the Queensland University, it says that a literature review is an evaluative report of the information found in the literature related to selected area of study. It means your report should be very much evaluated. It is not just a simple mentioning that so and so person has discussed this matter. It is not. It is, you will have to evaluate that research work, that this is the literature which was previously made, this is the research work, and this is the limitation, these were the methodologies, which was perfect methodology or which was imperfect, which is the limitation, or this is a limitation, we want to cross that limitation. So you will have to evaluate that report. The review describes, summarizes, evaluates, and clarifies this literature. It gives a theoretical base for the research and helps to determine the nature of research. Your nature of research will depend upon the review of reference literature. This is the Queensland University's observation. So this is University of Toronto's observation. They say that a literature review is an account of what has been already established or published on a particular research topic by accredited scholars and researchers. This is a long definition. I am just quoting a part of that definition, which is important. They say that it is established, or it has what has been already established or published. Means established means it may not be published. Something data which are recorded in the government offices, some data which is recorded on some convincing sources. It may not be established, but these are the research works which are to be addressed, which are to be considered for your or our research work. Or it may be published. Published means it may be the published research work in the form of research paper, dissertation, or thesis, or some research-oriented books. So these are the functions of research review of reference literature. So identification of relevant theoretical and conceptual framework of research problem. Your research problem, the theoretical and conceptual framework of research problem is determined by the review of reference literature. This is very interesting. You will have to find some research problems. If there is no any research problem, then there cannot be one research work. So to determine that problem, or to find out that problem, or to find out the theoretical and conceptual framework of that problem, the review of reference literature is very much important. Development of hypothesis to be tested. You know that the hypothesis, it is not an assumption made by the researcher only, but it is a general observation, and which is to be tested, and at the end of research, it is to be either it is to be accepted or it is to be rejected. So the development of the hypothesis which are to be tested, it is determined by the review of literature. So it improves the methodology also. Development of research instruments. You see, methodology, somebody has done some research work on some particular method. You do not know that it was out of your knowledge that this method can be adopted. But after going through that research, you will get the information, or you'll get the knowledge that it can be this methodology can be helpful for your research also. So it improves your methodology. So development of research instruments. We all adopt some research instruments, and these research instruments develops by the these research instruments are developed or it is improved by the review of reference literature, because somebody like the methods, if somebody has adopted some method instruments, you will get the idea, or somebody has not adopted and you think that it is to be adopted, or somebody has not adopted the proper methodology and you think that this method has to be adopted. After by arguing that to the particular previous research work, only you can go through that and you can fix it. Identification of suitable design of data collection method. You know that somebody has adopted some data collection. We go for data collection, for field study, for data collection, for library works, and for collecting data, we must have some information, or we must have some idea of the methods, or what is to be done, what type of data will be important for us. So, so this design and data collection method are also can be improved through review of reference literature. So it broadens knowledge base in the research area. You must have some knowledge base, previous knowledge base on some particular research area, because if you do not have any idea about research work, then you cannot go through it mechanically, but you must have some idea, you must have some interest. It develops, it broadens by adopting, by reference of review of references. So discovery of unanswered questions about subjects, concepts, and problems after going through previous research works, after going through the existing literatures which are related to your research work. So these 10 points can be improved. So it is a pillar of good research, which says that it is a pillar of good research because it helps to guide the researcher in searching for and selecting better research problem or topic, which I have already told. It helps the investigator to understand his topic and research better in a better manner. It ensures that there will be no duplication of other studies. This is very important. Nowadays, you know that plagiarism sake is very much important. And plagiarism, to avoid plagiarism or unknown plagiarism, or to avoid the duplication that somebody has done some research in that particular area, within that particular limitation, by adopting the same methodology, then it will be limited. It will be repetition. So you'll have to avoid that repetition or duplication. So, and plagiarism, unknown plagiarism. I'm not talking about non-plagiarism. But unknown plagiarism, something happens because you have gone through some literatures with some casual mood, and the literature was in your mind, and you have repeated that thing in your research work without quoting that. That may create problem for you. So you must have that idea of duplication, and you must avoid that duplication. And by going through research review of reference literature, you can avoid that. It provides a conceptual and theoretical framework of the planned research. You know that you must have one very particular standpoint, from which point you will observe, from which point you will discuss, from which viewpoint you will discuss. This is very important. So this is conceptual and theoretical framework. It is also, it improves. It gives researcher a feeling of confidence. You know that is very important. You must have the feeling of confidence. You must have the feeling of confidence on research. So if you do not have the confidence, there you cannot complete the work in a very interesting manner. You see, research is also one type of creative thing. Everything in this art is creative. So if you are very much mechanical, you do not have any confidence, then it may create problems. So please mute your, participants are requested to mute your microphone. Some noises are coming. It is disturbing. It provides information about the research methods used. I have already said about it. It provides findings and conclusions of past investigators. So past investigations. It provides findings and conclusions of past investigations. So past investigation, there must be some findings and conclusions which are to be addressed, which are to be discussed, or which are to be overcome, which are to be, we say that these are the these were the findings, and we will have to overcome that. We are agreeing that finding, It was not really that that research found that, but it cannot be established nowadays. You see, research findings can be changed according to time and space. So according to the time and space, you can argue that research finding. To review the literature means to be able to identify what has been established or described in the accepted and accepted in your field. Please about this term up. And areas of controversy and conflict among different schools of thought. There are different schools of thought. You know, there are different schools of thought. So in comparative literature, there are American school, French school, so different schools of thought. So somebody has observed that, somebody has made that research from Indian point of view, somebody has made that from French Spanish point of view, French school, from the somebody has made his research from the point of view of American school. So areas of controversy and conflict among different schools of thought. So there are conflicts. There are conflicts in between all the schools. Only because there is conflict, there are different schools. So the basic thing is that we will have to find out that conflict. Only after going through that, we can establish it, we can discuss it. The problems or issues that remain unsolved, this can be found out. And this you will have to overcome. Emerging trends of new approaches. So approaches and methodology both are important. So emerging trends of and new approaches are also very much important. How your research extends, builds upon and departs from previous research. This point is very much important. You see how your research extends, builds upon and depart from previous research work. How it is different from the previous research work. You'll have to establish that view. You will have to establish that view, and only you can establish that view if your review of reference literature part is very much strong and important, strong and resourceful. That only after that you can establish that your research is built upon and depart from previous research work. So these are the 5 steps involved in conducting a literature review. This is the practical thing. Now you'll have to, you know that what is the importance of review of reference literature. So these are the 5 steps you will have to follow. Search for existing literature in the area of study. You'll have to make some general search for existing literature in the area of study. Review of literature selected. How to review, I'll tell you. Develop a theoretical framework. Develop a conceptual framework, and writing up literature reviewed. Review of literature selected. This is a general review, and writing up the literature review. This is only after theoretical and making the theoretical and conceptual framework of that particular literature. You will able to write your review. So these are the characteristics of some literatures which are to be selected. You see, the surveyed materials must be as recent as possible. It is not that only recent things are important. I am telling you about the recent means recent research works, but sometimes you please keep it in your mind that sometimes the established research work of the past, very old time, these very ancient time or old time, these may also be very important. But I'm telling you about the recent work means in the very recent research work, it is assumed that this research work has argued all the previous researches related to it. So if you go through very recent research work, then you will able to get some idea about the previous research work. So you will have to find out very recent research work. Means if you want to go through the population strategy statistics of our nation India, then you'll have to go through the census report of 2011 first. then you'll have to, if required, then you'll have to go through the reports of 2001, 91, 81, 71 accordingly. So materials reviewed must be objective and unbiased. The materials which are considered to be reviewed must be objective and unbiased. Sometimes some research works are biased. It is said that these are research work, but biased thing cannot be a pure research work. Sometimes due to the political structure of a country, due to the societal structure of a country, some pseudo research works are established as pure research work in that particular society, but these are not pure research work. So this must be, you must consider that viewpoints. So materials surveyed must be relevant to the study. Your material which you are going to survey, please note down the basic structure of your topic of research. Then you see that how many parts are there in your topic. Then for each and every part of your topic, you will have to go through the literatures which are related to that part. So there may be 2-3 parts of one topic. You'll have to go through related research of that particular parts of your topic. So material surveyed must be relevant to the study. Surveyed materials must have been based upon genuinely original and true facts or data to make them valid and reliable. Your surveyed materials must be based on some genuinely original fact. If you are going through one research, then you should know that this research work is one original work. Okay. So these are the guide questions. Do the accumulated research indicate gaps and inconsistencies which you hope to fill? These are the basic questions which are to be asked before selecting the literatures which are to be reviewed. Do the accumulated literature indicate gaps and inconsistencies which you hope to fill? Means your selected literature has reflected the gaps and inconsistencies or not. Are the variables adequately described? If it is not adequately described, then there is a gap, and there may be point of some argument or disagreement. So this point has to be noted. What data gathering instruments have been used? Are they reliable and valid tools? So see, data gathering instruments there are different scales for different social researches of social science and humanities. So this scale may not be suitable for this particular one particular scale may not be suitable for one particular study, but somebody has adopted that scale. So this tool may be rejected in your research, that this was not perfect tool to conduct that research, but this is the perfect tool, or this was not most recent tool, most recent scale to conduct that study. So we'll have to adopt this recent scale. This is very a very important point which is to be made clear. Are the target and sampling populations presented? The target and sampling population were presented or not. If it was not presented properly, then you will have to overcome that limitation and in your research work, and you have to argue that point in your research. Were the hypothesis tested and correctly interpreted? I'm telling you one fact, that in many researches, hypotheses are not tested properly. If it is not tested properly, then problem arises, because during the conclusion, you'll have to argue perfectly your hypothesis. So If it is not tested properly, you cannot argue. If it is not tested properly, you cannot validate your objective, your finding. So it is to be tested and it is to be correctly interpreted. Are the results logical? Are the conclusions and recommendations data-based? Whether the results are logical or these recommendations are database based or just an simple it is in comment, it is to be observed. These are the, it says that these are the 3 steps, basic steps of literature review. Locating literature where it is, identifying key text, review of literature, read key text, analyze and evaluate critically, writing the literature review, synthesis and organize. This is the, these are the 5 steps it says. But please, I want to tell you one thing. Please keep it note that in a very primary stage of research, every literature which you think that this may be related to my research are very much important. Do not think that this will not be important for me. I always tell the researchers, do not think that this may not be important for my research and reject it in a very preliminary stage. And do not reject it in a very preliminary stage. And I am telling you that only after going through that literature, only after making your standpoint very clear, only after going through the different steps of that research, you can reject or you can accept. So you'll have to go through all the literatures related to which you think or do not think that it is, you think that, which you think that it is, it is related to literature, or which you think that it may be or may not be, you're not sure. This type of literature also, please note it down. And after going through that literature, you either reject or accept for review. So this is the search, how to search for existing literature. What literatures can be important for you? Start with at least some idea about a broad subject area and or the problem which you want to investigate, and compile a bibliography. We say that this is working bibliography. You compile that working bibliography in a synopsis. You see, we always quote one, we always include one bibliography. That bibliography is a working bibliography only. That is a proposed bibliography. It is not that you have gone through each and every book at a very early stage when you are writing one synopsis. So this is the same thing regarding the literature review also. You'll have to make a proposed bibliography and you'll have to go through in a broad area. Then you concise it to your own area. So this may be the source of your literatures, thesis, research papers, books and journals, research-based reports, e-resources, some recorded of the government offices, some recorded of the research centers, some recorded of the universities, some recorded of some museums, some recorded of some relevant, some reliable recorded of some reliable centers from where we can collect. These may be your literatures which are to be recorded. So these are some sources which can be considered. So these are the magazines, newspapers, electronic database. But electronic database, you please be careful when you go through electronic database. You see the sources like Wikipedia. This cannot be a reliable research source of your information, but because Wikipedia can be edited by anybody, so it cannot be a reliable source of your information. It can, of electronic database. Yeah, you will have to go through that source. Wikipedia, the source is just it is an info, it is preliminary information. So you can go through the Wikipedia, but to find out the original sources from the informations are collected, uh, to uh, to find out that source, you can go through the sources like Wikipedia only. So electronic database must be very much important, very much authentic, and you'll have to record the URL of your database always, and the searching time when it was retrieved. So books, this is very important, journals, conference papers. To find out a conference papers, conference proceedings may be important for your thesis, research reports, so encyclopedia and dictionary, etc., etc. These may be point to be noted. Be aware that sometimes the title doesn't provide enough information to decide, and the literature is going to be used to be of use. Sometimes if we go through the topic only, then you cannot say that this is useful or this is not useful. You'll have to go through that particular work if you have any idea or notion that it may be helpful. Start with the latest issue, examine it. Okay, latest issue again. For one particular text of creative writing, you see one novel. See, novels are published in different editions. After completion of the printings of one edition, then next edition it comes out. So in such cases, we say that we will have to try to find out the first edition only. But the research work, always we prefer the recent issues. Start with the latest issue, examine its content page to see if there is an article of relevance to your research topic. Start by reading the abstract. If it is relevant, then hire, purchase, or download, or read. So this is the simple, very simple steps to be adopted. So how to do the review? What are the important points which are to be noted? Start reading them critically. You are not reading as a student, but you are reading. You are not reading as an ordinary student. You are reading as a researcher. So with a critical viewpoint, you have to read it to pull together themselves and issues that are associated. This is very, 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 very important. What are to be noted? Note the objectives and hypotheses of the literature which you are going through or which you are going to review. Note the limitation of that study, the methods used, area covered, and findings of the work. These 6 points are to be mentioned, are to be noted very seriously, are to be examined critically, and are to be addressed, argued, rejected, or accepted in your research report. The separate sheet of paper for each article or book, you'll have to make it at a first. Once you develop rough framework, slot the findings from the materials of a review, the framework using a separate sheet of paper with them each themes of that framework. As you read further, go on slotting the information where it logically belongs under the themes of development. This is very important. Notice where there are significant difference of opinion among researchers. This is very important. Notice where there are significant difference of opinion among researchers and give your opinion about the validity of that differences. So sometimes some differences may be there. Review of literature is not a general description of the description of the previous researches, but you'll have to give your opinion about the research, then only we can think that we can accept that it was critically examined. A certain areas in which little or nothing is known, the gaps that are examined in the book, in the body of the work. Ascertain that the areas in which the little or nothing is known, the gaps that exist in the body of the work. That body of, you ascertain that things. Without asserting, you cannot say anything. So this may be a very rough sheet, summary sheet of your research work. Author, year, title, aims, methods, samples, conclusion, and your comment. Only this comment. This is not to be noted or write. This is not a model to write in your research report, but this is for you only as a researcher. As a researcher, you have to note it down. This is a summary sheet of your reference literature, review of reference literature. So this is the author, this is the year, this is the title, these were aims, these were the methods adopted, these were the conclusions made, and this is your observation. This observation point will establish that your research is not like that previous research. Your research is different from the previous research. Develop a theoretical framework. Find out the theories that have been developed from different perspectives and used in the literature. What are the theories adopted? Develop your own framework according to your needs. What were the theories adopted in that research work? Were they sufficient, or it is to be elaborated? New theories are to be adopted. Your research is going to adopt new theories. So these are points which are to be noted. Develop your own framework according to your needs. Only after going through the different perspectives of the theories which were developed by the previous research works, you can develop your own theoretical framework for your research work. Develop a conceptual framework. The conceptual framework stems from the theoretical framework and concentrates usually on one section of that theoretical framework, which becomes the basis of your study. You see, the conceptual framework which helps you to determine your hypothesis, which are to be tested, or that hypothesis which determines that you'll have to go through this route up to that point by examining these and these points from this viewpoint, from this standpoint, and to either reject or accept that hypothesis. So this conceptual framework, it can be made only after going through the reviews of after going through the literatures which are reviewed. So you will realize how to write that literature review. You will realize that certain themes have emerged. Now you have literatures which are to be examined, which are to be addressed, which are to be critically examined. You have selected. Now you have the literatures which has some limitations, or which has some points which are to be argued or which are to be rejected, which has some methodical limitations, and you want to overcome it. So you have that certain themes which has been emerged after going through the literatures which has been reviewed, list the main ones, converting them into subheadings, precise descriptive description of the theme in the question, and follow a logical progression. And we talk about logical progression of the review of literature. What are the logical progression? You see, uh, some points which may be considered as logical progression of your research. A research, you see, uh, this A, B, C, D, E, F, A, B, C, D, E, F researches were selected, literatures were selected. A research was done in 1889, B was done in, say, later year, C was done then after B, D was done after B, after C, and E was done after D. It proves the evolution of the concepts which were evolved because of the conceptual evolution of the researchers according to the need of the time and space. And now when you go through the review of literature, when you going to write the review of literature, then your logical progression of that literature should be A, B, C, D, E in that model, because it proves the conceptual evolution of research on that particular area. If D was done before C, then D should be mentioned after B. If D research was done before C, then D should be mentioned after B, because it was done, it is reflecting the conceptual evolution. But if you break that chronological order, then the conceptual evolution of the research according to the need of time and space will be will not be maintained. Then the reader or the researcher who are going to read your research in the future, they'll be in puzzle. What was the evolution? What point, or from what point you are going to argue? So this is the logical progression which has to be made. Under each subheading, record the main findings with respect to the theme in question, highlighting the reason for and against an argument if they exist, and identifying the gaps and issues. You see, the identification of the gaps and issues of some particular research work is very important for you, because you are going to filling it up. You are going to filling it up. You are going to address that gap only. You are going to address that particular research problem which was emerged because of that gap and issues. So you have to go through the research, previous literatures, and you'll have to identify the gaps, the issues, and then the problems, your research problem will come out, and your research problem will address that gap and issues, and your research will try to fill it up. The gap, your research will try to give the answers of that gap, to minimize that gap, to address that issues. So this is important. So always subheading, use subheading, arrange in logical order, I'm telling already. Avoid too long introductions to your main topic. Include information that is directly related and relevant to your topic. A maximum of half page double space must constitute one paragraph. That it says it is not an hard and fast rule. Do not copy in toto the information from your source. Not more than 10% of the entire paper is allowed to direct quotation. That is very important, because during the plagiarism sake, if you directly mentioned more than 10% of the particular topic during research review or somewhere else, then the plagiarism sake software will not allow you. So even in the research review, do not quote more than 10%. This is very important point, which is to give due credit to the real source of your data, cite the authors, and end the sentences, paragraph using by own words and style, summarize important points from your source, reinforce your data with selected figures, and that is this part is particularly for your research report. Make sub-headings, so spice your writing with a variety. Keep your paper alive. This is very important during review literature. If you say that author A found out, author B found out, author C found out, that's monotony. That is monotonous. Then it became bored. It's a very simple technique to make your research report very interesting and creative. You have to write like that. It was demonstrated. It was reported. Evidences from supported, observed. It was observed by. It was examined by somebody else. It was concluded. It was revealed by somebody else. Like that, you have to use some other words. So this is what I had to tell you about the research methodology, which is to be this is an important part which is to be addressed, and particularly during research work, why research review is very important. What I have seen as a very I'm a student of Assamese literature, you know, and still I want to pursue my research, and I'm pursuing my research. And I have observed, this is my very simple observation, that our researchers do not give proper emphasis. They do not properly emphasize, give proper importance on literatures which are to be addressed, or which are to be reviewed. This part is to be made very much important, and this part it should be very much strong in your research. If it is not, if your review of literature is not properly designed or properly is not composed, then your whole research thing, you know, your research report will be diluted, and your research report will be sometime it may be good or it may be rejected, like anything in the future. So review of literature, it is very important, and I hope that the researchers of the humanities and social sciences will give proper importance on review of literature. Of course, the researchers of science, I have seen that they must give proper importance from the previous literatures, but in humanities it is lagging. So sometimes even nowadays it became a matter of software. So if your literature review is not perfect, then sometimes you will be in trouble. You will be very much. You will have to face some serious trouble because of the issues like plagiarism and others. So it cannot be copied. One research cannot be copied. One research cannot be repeated. So to avoid repetition, to avoid copying, you must go through the previous research work. You know, I'm going to conclude my speech by giving one example of one Assamese scholar. That was Yogendra Narayan Bhuya. Yogendra Narayan Bhuya, he was a very serious researcher. He was trying to go through the researches he was trying to conduct research on the 19th century Assam. So to conduct the 19th century Assam, he had to go through the information which were preserved in the government um, custody, government courts, and custody of the government courts. And uh, you can believe that he was so serious to go through um, that files, old and old files and documents, that sometimes he felt sick. But after going through that, he composed two very important books which are considered as the masterpieces of Assamese research on 19th century Assam. These are Mahafez Khana Keikedi and Unobinko Tikar Muhammad. So, and even some writings about Anandaram Dhekial Phukon and his contemporaries came out only because of the serious work, serious review made by Jugendra Narayan Bhuya during his research in Mahafez Khanas, in the courts, in the custodies of the courts of the British time. So this type of seriousness is required to conduct one research. It is not that you have to go research only to acquire PhD or MPhil degree. Nowadays, MPhil will no more, but only to acquire the degrees. But research is to be conducted for the future generation. The future generation, which are our future generation. So this is to be conducted very seriously, and I believe that if some points, some questions arise in your mind after concluding my speech, you will go through discussions. And with these words, I'm offering my gratefulness to the organizers, my dear departmental organizers, Dr. Bora and Borthakur Madam, and others who have participated and who has listened very seriously my presentation. And with these few words, I conclude, and with a hope that in future we'll really will able to produce some serious research work. Thank you.